Hey guys, just wanted to do a really quick message for all those of you, maybe you can share this with your friends or family. For those of you who are kind of having like bad days, or maybe you're having a bad moment in your life, this video may serve you. I'm an emotion code practitioner out here in Las Vegas. I work in bioenergetic healing, which involves removing these things called trapped emotions, or also clearing your heart wall. I work with people that have depression, anxiety, PTSD, or just people who know for a fact that there is some emotional baggage going on in their life. But what if you don't know about the emotion code? What if you don't know, or you haven't cleared your heart wall? What if you haven't even touched any of your trapped emotions? What can you do today in regards to feeling better? Like, just you're having a down day, you're having a down moment. How could in 30 seconds could you do something to get yourself out of that? And I want to basically reference a story about a monk, and hopefully you guys appreciate this story because it's one of my favorite ones in regards to how you can create either a heaven or a hell on earth. Some of you guys may know this story, some of you guys may not, but just basically what happened was there's this older wise monk and there's the young student, right? The young pupil that learns from him, sups from him. And so I want you guys to imagine that they're both, hanging out with each other, and basically all of a sudden the mentor says, hey, I just want to show you what heaven and hell look like. First of all, the pupil was kind of scared and nervous and said, I don't know if I want to see that because then I'd be dead, right? And he says, no, it's actually something you can experience here on earth. Okay, I want you guys to really hear every single word that I'm saying because there's a lot of multiple meanings to this story. But basically that there is a heaven and hell on earth. And the question is what are you creating, or who's creating it? And so they both traveled to this place. It was this huge hut. It was a circular hut. And there were, obviously the mentor invited him in and said, you need to look around. And when he went in there was this huge rice bowl, right? This huge rice bowl. And there were a bunch of monks, his friends, his pupils. They were all around this little circular bowl. And in the bowl was just a ton of rice. But something that he heard kind of from afar before he came in was the sound of like ksh, ksh, ksh. And he was wondering, he's like, what is that sound? Once he goes in there, he noticed it was rice falling to the ground. And anyway, all these people had one thing in common. They all were very upset. They were kind of skinny. They weren't really, their body wasn't like they eat well in their life. They're very kind of skinny. They were very aggravated. Their face showed aggravation. And they had an arm with a spoon on it. And so with this spoon, it was roped around their arm, but the spoon was like bigger than their arm. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to feed themselves, everybody around this bowl, but then what happened was it went over their shoulders because obviously the spoon was too long. And then he says, wow, so what is this, He's like, this is hell, and this is what happens when you think about yourself. When you think about yourself, you remain sort of spiritually and emotionally anorexic. See how people are hungry here, and they're all devastated, they're all upset. And so the little people said, yeah, I do see that. He says, so this is hell on earth. So let's keep moving. So they go outside, and then they see another hut. And the pupil was kind of like, I don't get it, this hut looks exactly like the last one. Did we take a U-turn? Like what's going on? Then he says, no. He's like, this is a new location. And he says he noticed the same hut, the same stairs to like the hut, everything. So I want you guys to remember that had a similar look to it, the environment. But then when he walked inside, something was different. Everybody was a lot more full. Their cheeks were large. Like everyone was very happy. And they had the same spoon on the arm. And the difference was that they were actually feeding each other. So they thought because the spoon was too long for them to feed themselves, they thought like, well, I can reach that next person. So everybody was feeding each other. And then the mentor told him, said, this is a glimpse of what heaven looks like, where people don't think about themselves. They actually find themselves by serving others. And so these people were full, they were happy, they were content. So what does it have to do with snapping out of not feeling good? Well, it has to do with outward and inwardness thinking. So thinking inward or outward. When you're thinking about yourself and when you're dealing with problems or dealing with depression, dealing with sadness, you're starting to think about yourself. iPhone, not you phone, iPhone, me. And as my mentor used to say, we're all tuned into the radio station WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. But we need to tune into a different radio station in order for us to seek that quick joy, that quick happiness to kind of bounce you back into life. And how you do that is you think outwardly. So I'm going to mention to you three scriptures. I don't think there's any worse torture in life than being crucified, or being, it's very similar to being skinned alive. I think those are the two top, horrible ways to keep a human alive as long as possible and that they can tolerate pain. And so the Savior was crucified because of what he was claiming to be, which was the Savior of the world. But I want you to think about that. Even during this vulnerable time, he thought outward, not inward. One of them was in Luke 23:24, where these Romans were crucifying him. And instead of him thinking about like, woe is me, I'm being crucified, he thought about the Romans. He says, Father, forgive them for what they do. See, right now in life, there may be people that are causing you suffering, causing you pain. Would you really ask your God in heaven to say, forgive them for what they do? Probably not, because you're too busy thinking of what? Yourself. And so the Savior is teaching these principles, which is that when you think outward, when you think of other people, I know there's a saying that says, hurt people, hurt people. The only reason why that quote is cool is just because it's meant to invoke compassion on someone else, that you don't know their story. You don't know the chapter that they don't read out loud of their book. And so that what that does is it kind of tunes your brain to say, I need to think of other people. Look for someone else who may fall under judgment or under sadness, or what about their depression? What about what they're dealing with? So it's always about reaching out. So number one is, Luke 23:24 talks about how the Savior wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about other people. Let's show another example of him with his outward expression, which is John 19:26. In that situation, he's actually facing down and talking to his mother Mary and the one that his disciple who he loved, beloved, John the beloved, right? And basically here he says, woman, here is your son. Who is he thinking about while he's on the cross? See, we have moments where we feel crucified, but what was he thinking about? He was thinking about his mother. He's like, how can I serve my mother before I pass away? Well, he said, he thought of John. If some of you guys also know your scriptures, John was one of the ones that asked if he could live forever. And he was the one that wrote the book of Revelations. He was in Patmos, the island of Patmos. He was a castaway. But what's really interesting is that, he asked that he never die, that he could stay on earth and continue preaching the gospel. Isn't that interesting how he said, this is your son. She actually gave him someone who would live longer than everyone else on purpose, so that actually he probably was there when she finally passed away because he was promised that long life. And so he was thinking about his mom. Here's the third example. Luke 23:43 talks about, he's talking to the thief next to him who's basically saying, hey, I know you're the Lord. Can you please help me? And, I want to change my life. I'm sorry for what I've done. The other thief was not, resentful for what he did. He wasn't apologetic for what he did. But the other one was. And then what he says, today you will be with me in paradise. See, he was thinking, even though the Savior knew where he was going to go, he kept thinking about where everyone else was going. You see? So here are three perfect examples of someone who basically he taught us basically how to think outward. And so that's the message of the day is, how do you get from 0 to 30 seconds to change your way of feeling down, feeling depressed? Well, the Savior kind of laid it out. And the monk did too, that you can actually create a heaven by thinking of other people. Find a person on Facebook you can get in contact with to help them out in their situation. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about the people in your go home and love your daughter, love your son. Maybe they need a sense of encouragement. Ask them how their day was going. I mean, the average American spends only 15 minutes with their kids. It's like that's a statistic that we don't really spend enough time with our kids, but they're highly influenced by school, friends, YouTube, and we're not providing that. Why don't you spend extra time with a child? Maybe they need some attention. Give to them. Don't think about yourself. So again, that's the quickest way to go from 0 to 30 seconds, how to change your ways. Like, okay, I need to snap out of what I'm feeling right now, and I'm going to go and find the nearest person to me and serve them. And so hopefully this helped someone out. I love the examples of of the Savior and how he reached out for people. Also, the monk story, that you can create a heaven, that heaven is not just a location, it's an environment that you can create by thinking outwardly and not inwardly. So hopefully you appreciated this message, and feel free to share and tag this with someone who might need to hear this. And then also you can subscribe below if you'd like more videos like this. We're doing 5 videos a week, mainly on bioenergetic healing, but sometimes there's messages that I feel very inspired to share. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Feel free to comment below. When was one time where you felt like you were feeling down and then you went out and did something kind and it kind of just changed your day? It works. You have to think outwardly, not inwardly. So with that, hopefully everyone has a great day, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.